Hello everybody, I'm Adam from Twin Crows here, and today I want to talk about Astrologian. The Shadowbrenner changes are going to be changing the job to a certain degree, and I've played a lot of Astro. I've played Astro mostly through Stormblood as my main job, even clearing several raids for it. I played it, I want to say, nearing the end of Heaven's Ward is when I picked up the Astrologian, where I was normally a Black Mage main. And I actually like Astro. When I tried out Astro, I was very, very fond of the job. As someone who played a lot of card games, when I was growing up, it easily just spoke to me. I very much like the actual drawing mechanic of it. Drawing a card and then royal roading it, turning it into another effect. Like expanded or extended or enhanced, then drawing other cards and playing that card. It was pretty fun, and it got even better in Stormblood. And so I really did enjoy it in Stormblood. What I wanted Astrologian to change was my biggest issue with Astrologian right now was these cards here, these actions. A lot of these actions were not there originally, right? So on a PC, you can just click on the button, one of your debuffs. Let's say, for example, Protect, right? Cast Protect real fast. And what you're supposed to do on a PC is actually just click off of it. Get rid of that card. That was one of the ways you get rid of a card. Or even an effect, right? You can't do that now. So they actually adding this here. And it's good for consoles. The problem is they moved it from PC. I don't know why they did that for. That made no sense, but I couldn't keep it on there. So I was disappointed in that change. But it was fine. No big deal. Some adjustment I had to get used to. But what I wanted from Astro was I wanted to fix the job like the sex, right? I wanted it to be different. The diurnal and nocturnal sex were probably my biggest complaints. I hated not being able to switch between battles. Like, you had to wait till the battle's over or you died and everybody respawned to restart to change sex. And if you go into a set with a scholar, actually, if you go in with nocturnal sex with a scholar, you can't really do anything. You essentially can't use any of your expected abilities because it's nowhere as good, right? You just can't use it. And that was a complaint. What I really wanted them to do was probably expand more on the cards, maybe add in a few new cards. I wanted to change Spire. Spire is probably one of the weaker cards. It will often be, royal roaded for an expanded effect, And very few times will it have a good use, right? Somebody be low on TP because they died or they spammed too many AoE attacks, right? It was okay in dungeons to a certain extent. Same thing for Ur. Ur was kind of good if somebody died or they ran an MP, didn't have any more mana shifts or lucid dreamings, and Savage content, generally better players would avoid these kind of issues. And also dying was, one thing you had to avoid. Then you have the bowl card. The bowl card was pretty good in progressing parties. Now, it wouldn't keep you alive, right? But it would do is prevent a lot of damage. I mean, it was essentially a rampart for 30 seconds. So that was pretty good, right? Then we had a problem of balance. Balance, spear, and arrow. These three cards have always been, I guess, hard to balance. Balance is just really, really good. It does 10% flat damage for one person. And if you do an AoE effect, it gets half. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it becomes about, it should be 5. I want to say half of that. And you can actually enhance it. Look at where it gains 50% more power. So it's about 15%. 15% for spear and sending for arrow. The problem was a lot of times spear would get out damaged by balance because even though spear will allow somebody to crit more often and have stronger crits, right? It can work for certain jobs better than others. Like Monk having built-in crit for its ability. I think internal release, I believe. Then you have Bards. Then you had Dragoon with Battle Litany. So Spear could at certain times be really, really good. But most of the time it was a weaker balance. Arrow was really, really good on mages, like especially black mages. It was also very good for healers if now I'm just saying this, if they were spamming a lot of heals. Now, if you do Savage content, raids and whatnot, you actually don't use too many heals. You actually use a lot of instant casts, like Dignity or Light Speed. You know, you don't really use too many heals. That's just how the game was working. You know, use Earthly Star, for example. You pop on Earthly Star, you know, Essential Dignity, Light Speed, you're okay. That was how the game worked. You didn't really cast a whole lot. That doesn't seem to be changing. It's going to be the same way. Some healers are hoping that was going to change. No, it's going to stay the same. You will not be spamming heals still. You're still going to be casting your Malefic spam over and over and over. You're going to sit here and use Malefic over and over and over and over. Throw on Combust. Every 30 seconds, throw on Combust again. That's how Astra is going to work, right? The biggest change they're going to do for Astra right now is they're changing how all the cards are. So, you go to the page, right? Fall cards. These are the new cards for Astrologian, right? I'm going to take my camera real fast. I'm going to move it out of the way. If I can find it. There it is. Right, so I'm going to put it up here. And also, this, by the way, this is from the Reddit YouTube page. So if you want to go to here and check it out, they have a lot of videos. I recommend. I think, in my opinion, they're one of the best ones that show a lot of the skills. They don't really do a breakdown how they function to a certain degree, like, you know, in actual combat. And some of them do have an accent, you know, same as me, you know, have an accent. So it might be a little harder to understand what they say, but you should better understand. And so the cards changed, right? You got Balanced Arrow and Spear. So no matter what card you draw, they're essentially a balance. They are a nerfed balance. Now, keep in mind now, the numbers are not final, right? So you don't know how strong a potency number is, right? But it's still a nerf no matter what. And the reason why I say it's still a nerf because if you draw a Balanced Arrow or Spear, if you put that card on a caster, they get on a 3% DPS. I don't care how bad the numbers are. 3%, that'd be just a huge different change as opposed to having 10% flat on any roll, right? It's down from 10% to 6%. Now, granted, a lot of the potencies can be wrong. So maybe 6% is still 10%, right? Maybe. I doubt it. Maybe 8%. I'm giving it a little bit of leeway. Regardless, I think all this shit got nerfed. And the reason why I got nerfed because you essentially gave every card a balance. So it had to be nerfed because you're always going to be doing a lot of damage. It made sense, right? That's the way to want to go around this, right? The problem is I have with this change is they're all the same. So no matter what cards you draw, it's essentially the same thing. The only difference between the Balanced Arrow and Spear is the additional effect you gain. Like you get a Lunar Seal, Solar Seal, and a Celestial Seal. This is going to be used on an ability later on you will get that will sort of, depending on if you have one of each, it can essentially buff up the actual effect. So I think it's here, Divination, right? So if you have 3 different seals, every player will get 6% more damage. Now, what's good about this is another way every 3 minutes to give the entire party a 6% damage buff, regardless of their roll. So whether they're melee or ranged, they're getting a 6% damage increase. As if you manage to get 3 different versions. Now, keep in mind now the potencies may not be there still. I do find 3% at no different seals and 3% at 2 different seals to be horrible. So hopefully they change that because that, I'm sorry, but that's no. I can understand if it was 4%, maybe 3, 4, and 6 or something. I don't know, but I do not agree with 3%, 3%. I don't agree with that. So here's where they go to. The lunar, solar, celestial will go right above here, right? No more do you have expanded, extended, or enhanced cards. I don't like this change. I think Astro is going to be it's going to still be the same. Astro will still be the same. You're still going to heal, with your EDs. You're going to use Malefic over and over and over. Throw on Combust every 30 seconds. Pop on light speed. Perform the mechanic. Evade the AoE. While you're healing, throwing your shields or regens. Doing DPS over and over. And then when you come to your cards, you're going to get a weaker version of balance. What I don't like this change is, in my opinion, it makes Astrologian simple. Real simple. So when Astrologian, what I liked about Astrologian was, so let's say you go to draw a card, right? Wrong clicking. You get a Spire, right? So this is a TP effect, and if you Royal Road it, you get a expanded effect. So I now have AoE, right? I can't draw any more cards, but I can use sleeve draw. So now I have a spear and an ore. So during a fight, I'm like, oh man, what can I do? I could potentially use spear, give everybody in my party a 5% increased crit rate for 30 seconds. I could also use celestial opposition to actually buff that by another 10 seconds and time dilation. Or I could re-roll a card, get something else. So let's re-roll it. That's fire. That much really helped me out. So what I could do is I could use my spear. I can now Royal Road that, and now I have another AoE effect. So now if I draw another card after undraw happens, I can actually use another AoE card. I can also use Lord of Crowns, and I could have actually used Lord of Crowns, use my AoE card to transform it to a crown or a lady. Well, a lord or a lady card. And that was kind of the fun in Astrologian, trying to instantly look at your hand and know what you had to do, right? And there was only 6 cards. They were either normal cards, expanded, extended, or enhanced, right? That was really it. And that was all to the job. So I draw a bowl card here, right? So I can redraw it. I got a balance. So I can save it here, and then I can use it, if I wanted to. It was kind of fun to sort of on the fly do these abilities while you're doing DPS and healing. Now, no matter what, I'm just going to pop my damage. Oh, I draw a card, I select the person, throw it on there. Draw another card, select the person, throw it on there. That's all it's going to be. There's going to be there's no mini game now with cards. It is straight up, you draw a card, okay, I want to put this arrow card on a melee user, okay? Hopefully I have somebody in my party that's melee, besides the tank, which tank probably won't be too bad. If I put this arrow card on a caster or ranged, basically, they're only going to get a 3% DPS buff. Okay, now I have an Ul card, so I could actually put it on a caster and give him a 6% buff. That's going to be it, man. No matter what you do, you're just going to re-roll cards. You're going to redraw cards, and you're literally just playing which card can I get for the better player? Like I'm going to draw this balance card. Okay, so I'll put it on the best melee DPS. Well, I draw an TP card, Spire. I'm going to put it on the best ranged DPS, according to my parse. I feel like they essentially got rid of the RNG out of the game for Astro, so Astro will feel more consistent, right? So Astro is basically more consistent now. Shadowbringers has been doing this a lot. It's something that a lot of people have been very worried about, I included. They are basically, here's the ceiling for 14, right? And here's the ground floor. People here are afraid of playing Astrologian because they don't know what all these cards do, right? They don't know what the cards do. So what they do is they simplify it. So now they lower the skill ceiling. So now to play Astro, you don't have to be that good, right? So now you raise it up, right? You raise the floor up. Well, this also in turns slightly lowers the skill ceiling, right? Because now you don't have to be as good at the game anymore. You can be kind of, you can be okay. You'll get by, right? You still have to be good to do Savage and Raid. You still have to pay attention to the mechanics, evade the AoEs, heal correctly, that kind of stuff, Do the mechanic, well, the raid or the fight, to where you survive and beat it. The problem is, it's coming at the cost of, in my opinion, play experience. Astrologian, with the changes to the card system, makes, in my opinion, Astrologian no different than a white mage or a scholar. Because now, essentially, what I'm going to be doing is here, I would throw a card out on somebody, draw a card, I flip them, throw a card, sleeve draw, throw a card on somebody else, throw a card on somebody else. That's it, right? And I'm sitting there doing DPS, casting my 1/1/1/1/1 ability, sitting there. Oh, put my combo on it too, Back to there. Oh, they're lowering HP, ED. Okay, back to DPS and mechanic. I pop light speed. I'll do the heal. Keep doing some DPS. Pop an AOE heal. Keep on doing it. DPS. Oh, combust. Oh, draw another card. Throw it on somebody else. DPS. That's what's happening to Astrologian. I feel like it's removing a lot of knowing what you draw and how to use it. A lot of people are saying, if I can remember this correctly, what some of them are saying, they're saying that Astrologian is going to make it to where you now have to pre-plan it, or what you're going to be able to do. I don't quite understand what they're saying. I think Mr. Happy said it and a few others. Actually, let's go to Mr. Happy's video real fast, and I'll show you. I didn't quite understand what he was saying, or what he meant by this. Alright, so...
Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be going over the changes and updates to the Astrologian job that are coming in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Shadowbringers. This information comes to you from the North American media tour that I recently attended. As such, all of this stuff is still in development and still subject to changes. The effects, the numbers, all that stuff could be different. So I'll have a watermark at the bottom, and with that, let's get started. Now, the core skills that make Astro a healer are all pretty much still intact. However, with Shadowbringers, the entirety of the card system has been completely reworked to make Astro a little bit busier and to try to give a purpose to all 6 of the different cards. Now, like I said, a lot of Astro skills did stay the same. Their basic heals, their basic DPS skills, a lot of their cooldowns, all the stuff listed on the screen right now.
It made Astro easier.
However, with the rework of the card system, some of their basic stuff that involve their cards and their buffs have been removed. Spread, Royal Road, Empty Road, Undraw Spread, and Time Dilation are all gone. With that, the majority of the new skills actually have to do with the card, so let's cover the new and adjusted skills that have nothing to do with the card system, so we can just talk about all the stuff that's related to the cards all at once. A big thing for me that I was really glad to see, Gravity's level 45 extends buffs. It seems they're trying instant AoE, only a handful of new skills that there's a new single target skill plus an aspected effect based on this. What happens is you place instantly heal anyone who is horoscoped, so you can pop this neutral sect. This increase to benefit non-card related skills now had before are still present. However, they now all provide a damage buff. It's not just the balance you're going to be fishing for anymore.
So I guess all provide a damage
all we were fishing for was balances before anyway.
That is actually incorrect. We were not actually fishing for balances all the time. But that is true in some cases. I'll give you an example. In Raids and Savage content, and Ultimate, you wanted that balance because number-wise, balance was better than Spear. There were a few times Spear may have been better, especially based on RNG, but it wasn't guaranteed. Balance still came out as a better DPS source. Same thing for Arrow. But I was fine with that. it was okay having one of 6 cards to be really strong. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think you getting that one card is going to make it to where that raid became that much easier, you know? I mean, yeah, it's making it a little bit faster to clear, but whether you do a spear or a balance, it was going to be a faster, you know, clear time because those cards gave you a good amount of DPS. In 4-man content, you didn't want to use AoE cards, right? You didn't want to use AoE cards because you actually lost a lot of its effect. The AoE is really, really good in 8-man content, right? But when it's 4-man content, you want to throw on single cards if possible. That's when it's best. You get more DPS out of that. And this is the problem when you balance a game based on casual play and high level play. So casual play, they made Astrologian easier to play, right? So now when somebody goes to play Astrologian, they're like, oh man, this is so daunting, you know? Like, so if they were to play the game right now, Astrologian, they'll be like, what does that card do? What does this button do? What does that button do? What does this do? So they have to learn, oh, okay, this changes the card, but what does that one do? So they go to reroll it, okay, that's expanded, but what did that blue one do when I expanded it? I turned it to an AoE. They don't know. They draw this card here, okay, so what does that one do? That's a different card. That was the problem. Well, what did that card do? This made it to where every single card literally does the exact same thing. They made it easier to play. That's it. Astrologian is still exactly the same job, but the cards are so much easier that any person can jump into Astrologian and not have to give 2 shits about or even worry about having to play the job. They won't have to. Jesus Christ, that was a lot of AoE cards. Holy shit. So, this essentially is, so then the DPS version's coming, right? So now they're basically all a mini balance, right? All cards are a balance. This essentially means now the raid and the people who are on the high level floor, they're okay because now, oh, we got balance for always. Despite even though it's going to be a nerf balance, they have balance always now, essentially, right? Not true. Because now, when you go to, you can't use AoE balance no more. You can't. You can't use AoE balance no more. You just can't. Because what's going to happen, right? So, you're gonna have to draw your card, right? Your OR card. You won't have this effect no more. The AoE card, right? You won't have it no more. So, you're going to have to get rid of it, right? So, all you're going to have is OR. So, it's for range. You got to pick one person. One person to put it on. So, you put on your best person. You draw a card, put that one on your other person. That's it. Now you're done. Now you can sleeve draw. You can use sleeve draw, and you know, do that. Put on some cards on somebody else, and then after some time, hopefully you got the right seals that you wanted to. Then you can press that button that gives you the all the cards. Right, the divination. So now everybody has balance, right? It's gonna be 3%, or it's gonna be 3%, or it's gonna be 6%. That I don't like this change. I think that it makes the job, in my opinion, way too easy for the cards, to where I don't see a difference between it and other healers. And then the raid scene, like, just gets DPS. So there's no fun in the job anymore. Because what I like to use also in the job was, let's say I drew an arrow card. I have a black mage in my party. You know what? I also have a bowl card. I want to enhance that bowl card. I'm going to spin it, you know, Royal Road it. And I'm going to throw this enhanced arrow card on this black mage. This dude is going to cast so fast, right? Could be casting speeds like hell, dude. I could do that, you know? For a casual perspective, it was my opinion, it was much more entertaining. It was also kind of entertaining in a savage raid way, or extreme trials, to sort of be in that hard content and have to think on the fly what you had to do. Eventually, once you played Astrologian so much, you kind of knew all possible combinations, possibilities to a certain extent, so you knew what to do with that card. But that was kind of the fun in actually learning a job and getting pretty good at it, you know? That was kind of like, hey, I'm pretty good at Astrologian. I know what these cards do. I know every single one, dude, and I know exactly what's the best way to put it on somebody, on which person. That was what to me was fun of Astrologian. Now, Astrologian to me is nothing more than a white mage or somebody who tries to pretend to be a scholar, okay? And they just heal. That's it. And every so often they'll draw a card, throw it on somebody, and that's it. Astrologian to me is still going to play essentially the same when it came to DPSing and healing, right? Exactly the same. But when it comes to the card mechanic, it's going to be so boring that you probably won't even notice it's even there as a person using it. You know, you might at the end of the dungeon, but hey, my parse, you know, let's say the dragoon in your party, or the bard, or the machinist, or anybody else in your party. Oh man, I did some pretty good damage today. You know, that parse again coming in, but at the moment you're not really going to know anything. You're not really going to tell. You know, throwing a spear on a monk or a bard when there's a dragoon in the party, and that dragoon had used battle litany, and that monk had used internal released, and he was getting mad crits. Those are kind of cool moments, you know. That caster, that white mage, they died. That red mage, you know. So I res them. They don't have lucid dreaming. No more Ur. You know, I can't put on the Ur card anymore and give them MP. Or I play a 4-man dungeon content. That warrior, for some reason, had used too many overpowers. Now he has no more TP. Well, let me give him Spire. Even though Spire is probably one of the useless cards, it was essentially always Royal Roaded and sending for the Ur card. Hey, I was fine with that. You know, I do think Spire need to be changed to be a little bit better, you know. Well, the bowl. The bowl, again, while it wasn't very useful in raid content, it was nice knowing that when your tank fucked up, they took vulnerability stacks and they're going to die to a tank buster because they weren't good. And believe me, this happens. I know in a raid perspective where you have to get good, not everybody's going to be good. Okay, they have to progress in the party. Whether you're playing Extreme Shinryu or you're fighting Kefka, you know, or even a 4-man dungeon, sometimes, you know what, having this card that can actually give that tank 20% damage reduction so I can continue to DPS and heal everybody else, I'll take it. You know, it was a very situational thing, but I liked it. Fuck, I liked it when that shit happens. It was something different, you know, it really was. And if I ever did get a bowl card, I could just redraw it, you know, turn it to another card. Or I could expand it. Or I could use Mana Arcana. So if I draw a bowl card, I can either turn it to a Lady of the Crowns or a Lord of the Crowns, you know. I draw a spear, you know, that's what I really liked about Astrologian. These changes for Astrologian, I do not like them, not one bit. I do not think the job is gutted, but I think the job has, in my opinion, it's lost the identity that I very much enjoyed it. I do not think that Astrologian is going to be a horrible job. It's not. I'm not complaining about it being a horrible job. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a horrible job. I just think that it's going to be a very, very cookie cutter job. It's going to play like way too much like any other healer. And for that reason, I'm out of Astrologian. I'm not playing this job ever again. I just don't see myself ever playing again. If I do play a healer, it's more than likely going to be White Mage, because I can just play White Mage. I'm not gonna play Astrologian and have to deal with shitty ass cards that don't have any special effect other than just DPS. I'm just gonna play White Mage. Fuck it, White Mage all the way, you know, or Scholar. And more than likely, I'm going to probably jump the 10 tanks. Probably what I'm going to be doing. I've already been playing a lot of tanks. You know, I've been preparing for Dark Knight. I've played a lot of Dark Knight right now. In fact, Dark Knight is probably one of my best level job right now. You know, I used to do a lot of raids. I actually had to stop doing raids for a certain amount of time. You know, I had issues that came up. You know, I had family matters. You know, my grandmother died. You know, it was some tough times. You know, I've done Shinryu. I got Shinryu mount. I even done the Kefka fight where I had the Kefka mount. You know, and you know, and I wanted to do the Omega raids. But I just didn't have the time or the drive to want to do it no more. And you know, I could imagine I could have been playing Astrologian all the way, doing this race, getting the mount for it, like I did for, you know, the other two. And I think now that, you know, it's unfortunate, man. I don't like what they did for Astrologian. I don't like the changes. You know, I do like the healer changes though. I do like how they removed a lot of the role actions, right? No more do we have law gaze, eye for an eye, cleric stance, break, protect. Some people are upset about protect. Some people are. I'm not. I don't care about protect. I think that having to cast this spell at the start of every single dungeon or wipe was annoying. For what? 3% damage reduction? 4%? Whatever the hell it was? You can literally just give everybody a fucking trait. Call it the Echo. There we have Protect now. I'm sorry. If they wanted to keep Protect, what Protect should have been was the PvP version of it, where it was literally a shield. That's what Protect should have been. A shield. It should be the White Mage shield. Divine Benison should be replaced with Protect. In my opinion. That's what it should be. And that's my biggest problem. And let's go back to Mr. Happy's video real fast and try to find what he was saying earlier.
The buff depends on how many different seals.
So by giving every card a damage buff and also giving them an additional effect, which will determine one of your other skills' effectiveness, that now they've given value to all 6 cards.
You know, imagine playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering. But I'm going to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I'm more familiar with that game. If every card you drew was exactly the same thing. So let's say, fuck it. You know, you drew Battle Ox. Okay? Yes, I said Battle Ox. You drew Battle Ox. You drew 6 Battle Oxes. Would that be a fun? Is it fun drawing the same card over and over and using it? Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's fun. I really don't.
So for the balance, the arrow, and the spear, they all provide a 6% buff to melee DPS players and a 3% buff for others. The bowl, the ewer, and the spire provide a 6% buff for range DPS and 3% for any other role you place them on. All these cards are single target, and they also each grant a different type of seal. The balance and the bowl grant a solar seal. The arrow.
That's also what I'm worried about too. Is if you put a card on a healer or a tank, because they're not melee DPS and they're not range DPS, does that mean healers and tanks only ever gain 3% more damage, no matter what? Is that true? Dude, are tanks being considered melee DPS? I mean, roll wise, they wouldn't. So that's some food for thought. You know, will tanks and healers only get 3% more damage? I mean, they are tanks and healers. They're not a DPS class, but you know, I wonder about that.
The ewer grant a lunar seal. Trailer had the wrong names under the cards, and people thought that it was calling out the next card that you were going to draw or redraw. It was just a typo. I was messing with you in the job action video, and I apologize, but all it was a typo there. It just says the card that you currently have. Now, with all those additional effects, they also made changes to the remaining abilities that have to do with drawing cards. For example, draw now goes on cooldown as soon as a card is pulled.
That happens also in PvP. Wanted that changed as well. It's nice to see it change. I like that.
This is because they introduced a new skill called
Now, you actually didn't need that skill in PvP. whenever you draw a card, your draw is replaced by the card, right? So in 30 seconds, if you don't use that card or you do use that card, your draw is basically refreshed. So that's how you waited 15 seconds. You used it. Well, 15 more seconds later, your draw is going to be refreshed. You didn't need to have a play card. So I don't know why.
Play, which is a separate button from draw. So it just allows you to not have to worry about draw's cooldown not resetting because you didn't.
So it's kind of like, you draw a card. It's sort of, it's automatically saving one card. That's fine. I mean,
Play.
Granted, there were times you would want to save a card. If you drew a bowl or a spire, you wouldn't want to save it, all the times. But,
A card fast enough. You now have all the time to make the proper decision with the play button. Redraw still works the same, except that it now stores up to 3 charges. So if you're having real Minor Arcana also saw use it over and over again to try and get the desired result.
The problem with this only matters for the celestial, lunar, and solar effect. It doesn't really matter about the cards, because if you have a caster, you have a range DPS, put the range card for them on them. If you have a melee, put it on melee. Now there will be some parties possibly that where you'll have 4 ranged, I guess, or 4 melees. That happens. I've seen it happen before, but I mean, what can you do?
Assuming you have the charges. Minor Arcana also saw a complete rework if you're exchanging a balance.
Now, I kind of like this change. I like the idea of actually taking a balanced arrow or spear, turning it into a DPS card, like the Lord of Crowns, or taking a lady and turning it into, from a spire or a bowl. Obviously, you wouldn't ever want to get rid of a balance card for Lord, or possibly even a spire, or spear, or arrow. There were some times you will use minor arcana, and you get rid of an arrow or spear, but not always. But I'd let this change.
Balance arrow or a spear via this pair. Also, now they are both stronger damage buffs that
I don't like this. I don't like this either though, because I like Lady of the Crowns because I can hold on Lady of the Crowns. And if a guy takes a lot of DPS, a lot of damage, I can use Lady of Crowns. It was off level cooldown. It's say my ED was down, Granted, ED now has 2 charges, so there is that at least. Also getting Lady or Lord of the Crowns from a spire or sleeve draw, whatever. It was nice, more DPS. I don't like this change. I don't like having just DPS only cards. I don't like that, Like, I'm fine with cards increasing DPS, but in different ways. I don't like cards increasing DPS in the same way. It, to me, speaks of repetition and boredom.
that do not generate seals. The Lord of the buff to range, you're going to have to pull this, getting yourself in trouble for one of your other new abilities. The next ability that saw a big change, draw after, which will reduce draws, is you can base damage buffs for with this new skill, Divination. This is the final new skill that we have to talk about for this video. It's essentially a one-stop shop for what would have been an AoE balance. It increases...
Yeah, it's an AoE balance, basically. Yeah.
...the damage dealt for yourself and all nearby party members when you cast it. However, the strength of the damage buff depends on how many different seals an Astro has. Now, on the build that we got to play, it was 3% if you had no variety in your seals, or if you had at least one duplicate, and it was 6% if you had one of each seal. So if that manages to stay, Astros now have to keep track of the seals that they've pulled and make sure that they get 3 different ones every time Divination comes off cooldown, which is once every 3 minutes. So with that, we've covered all the...
Ugh. You can only get AoE. Now, keep in mind now, for these raiders who wanted this change for every card to be better, or, useful was the word they may use. Imagine only being able to have an AoE balance at 3% or 6% every 3 minutes. Whew.
Changes to the cards, we've covered their new abilities. I mean, that's it. That's what's changed for Astro. It doesn't seem like a lot since we actually got through the video very quickly, but it should mean that Astro has...
Doesn't seem like a lot. What? That was a lot, man. It really is. Just changing the cards, how they function, that's what the job entirely is. Other than that, it's nothing more than a white mage. Like, you know, or a pretend scholar, you know, without having to have the ether flow stack issue. That was essentially, Astrologian was, you could either be a white mage or a scholar. Then you had cards. That's what Astrologian was.
Has a lot more active decision making, on top of having a little more time to actually make their decision without seriously hampering the cooldown on drawing another.
Active decision making, or more time to think about what to do. Because when your card does exactly the same thing, there isn't really anything to do. You don't really have options. You redraw a card for the celestial thing, what you want it for divination. You throw it on to somebody. It's so simple now. Like,
hard. I found it to be quite satisfying as I played through with it, and definitely a lot more thought-provoking as I had to keep in mind which cards belong to who and which seals they...
Thought-provoking? This change is literally the opposite of that. This is literally the opposite of that. This is not thought-provoking. I mean, I guess if you're getting pissed like I am, but that is not thought-provoking. Knowing that 6 cards you use are essentially the same damn thing is not thought-provoking. Thought-provoking is when you draw a card, as a Spire, and okay, I'm a Royal Road this card. Then you just sleeve draw. Okay, now I have a balance card to save. I now have a MP card drawn. So, and I also have Lord of the Crowns. So I'm gonna use my Lord of the Crowns. I'm gonna use my AoE balance. I'm gonna then Royal Road that MP card, so I have another AoE effect. So when I do draw again, I have another AoE card effect. That was what was fun about Astrologian. That was what was really fun about Astrologian. This change here just makes the job seem so fucking boring, dude. I'm sorry. I just can't see it any other way. It's
They
not...
actually gave. All the cards felt like they mattered, and all the decision making I had.
All the cards mattered in a 4-man content. Did you know that AoE balance wasn't good in 4-man content? I'm pretty sure he knows that. He's done Ultimate, you know. All the cards mattered, right? There was this weird fallacy that balance was the only card that mattered because of the best players said so. That is the furthest from the truth, because you can't assume the game plays the same for everybody. Because in League of Legends, you know, when a champion is being played and it's a high skill cap champion like a Kali, which I probably want to use a Kali because I don't think Kali is a high skill champion, but I'm gonna say it anyways. You know, Kali or Riven, changing something small could be huge for pro players. So you don't want to, but you don't want to change it too much to where it affects the players who aren't good at the game or as good at the game. You know, there's a reason as to why they will make pro play nerfs and buffs to a character in League of Legends, because it's a way to affect pro play without actually affecting casual play, right? You don't want to go overboard. What Square Enix has done here, they have essentially went overboard, in my opinion. They have lowered the ceiling for Astro so far, and also rose the floor at the same time, that the job has gotten so easy that I feel like I will never play Astro again, because I can just play White Mage. Like,
I felt like it mattered more. I also forgot to quickly mention traits, but they're pretty much all the same.
I just, I really don't like the Astro change. You know, it's not thought provoking. You know, other than maybe tilting. But it's, in my opinion, it is a horrible change. Do not think it's going to ever get reverted. If it does get reverted, it's going to take 4 years or so, like it did for Bard. I don't like these changes, man. These were horrible changes for Astrologian, and I hope that they hear the complaints. You know. Now, I do think they got some new abilities that were pretty sweet. You know, neutral sect sounds pretty cool. While it didn't really fix the complaint I had on, you know, Astrologians and the nocturnal and diurnal sect, but it was kind of neat, you know. I like some of the abilities Astro has. Another complaint I have with healers in general is solo content. They are extremely boring to play. When I was playing Stormblood, one of the worst moments I had in that story was playing as Astrologian, was fighting Xenos, where I was literally spamming Malefic every 30 seconds. I throw in a combust, spam Malefic for 30 seconds, combust, Malefic for 30 seconds, combust. That was it. Wasn't fun. I might have drew a card, but I was throwing a card on myself. That was it. I felt like that was boring as shit, and that's not going to be getting changed. So, you know, in my opinion, be careful of playing healer if you're new to the game. While solo content, it can become very boring, a very boring class to play. It can be fun in group play, without a doubt. You know, but that's all I have to say. I wanted to talk about more things from the Shadowbringers, the information that's coming out. But I had to get this off because this actually bothered me. You know, as somebody who's played Astrologian for a long time, well, you know, nearing the end of Heavensward and all the way through Stormblood for about 4 years straight, this disappointed me very, very good. You know, I was very disappointed. And that's the one thing, you know, it's, you see this in some video games. Imagine playing a class or a job, you know, and for all these years and patches, and boom, Thanos comes in there, erases it, you know, like changes that, you know. Super Mario Brothers 3 though, Super Mario Brothers 3 will always be the same. I never have to worry about Super Mario Bros. 3 ever changing. So, yeah. But, I mean, change can be good, you know. Change can be good. Like, 1.0 was honestly, it was trash. Then it became 2.0. It was slightly less trash. 3.0 came out. It was actually a pretty good game. 4.0 came out. I was like, hell yeah, that's some good shit. 5.0 come out. I was like, okay, you guys might be, in some areas, you might be going the wrong direction. Astro is one of those things. I think the combat changes for the game overall have been very positive. I agree with all the combat changes they've done. But Astro and Scholar are probably the two jobs right now. I think they screwed the pooch up on that one. I really do. I think that they made some issues on Scholar and Astrologian. Scholar is another job that I don't play too much of, but I see a lot of complaints and I understand why they're complaining. You know, let's go real fast to the Scholar. I have every job 70 except for 2 crafting classes. So, Scholar lost, holy shit. They lost Eye for an Eye. They lost Shadow Flare. Jeez, they lost one of the, I think, Miasma. They lost Bane. Not only did they lose Cleric Stance, you know, from a roll action, and, you know, Largaze, they also lost Rose. They lost Sustain. It's just, whoa, man. That's why I say I don't want this video to be too long, but you guys have a good day. I'm going to try to, I guess, calm down a little bit, you know, try to enjoy the nicer things in life. Maybe play some Super Mario Bros. 3. Peace.